Actually, Greta, when she started the Youth for
School
Fridays for Future, yeah,
strikes.
the school strike. She just started every Friday going to their parliament and then staging a school strike. So she didn't go to school and then demanded a common and simple ask to raise the ambitions on climate action. And then slowly it grew. The reason why is because we're currently in a state of climate crisis where, as Greta was sharing to everyone and to the world leaders, that the science is very clear already that we need more actions at this state of time. But unfortunately, countries, companies have continually failed to scale up their ambition to address in reducing their emissions, or in some cases they simply ignore or even deny the climate science behind of it. So it actually inspired a lot of people in a span of 1 year, from a single person, single student, 16-year-old woman. It grew to a million movement, surpassing around more than 150 countries all over the world. So since the climate strike, which happened a couple of weeks ago, it was a show of force on how big is the demand for climate justice, demand for more action from world leaders and from corporations, from everywhere.
I think it's also worth looking back. In 2015, we signed a global agreement, and governments were one in saying we need to take action. I think what Greta did is to show how it should be done. And what she's saying is, you raise the alarm, you do what you have to do. And she's just referring to science. I mean, she's not, I think the beauty of what she's doing is that she's not pretending that she knows the science, but she knows there is science that's telling us we should stop emitting, greenhouse gases. There is science that's telling us that we should restore our ecosystems. And it's just taking to task adults, leaders, social influencers to take action. Because, I think it's after a few years of saying we have a big problem, then you see people just negotiating, and that's not getting us anywhere. I think the power of that statement is that, this is how things need to be done. She's a student. She's supposed to be in school, but she's willing to give up that space, that position, and say, all right, if it takes me being absent on Fridays to call attention from my government and to draw attention from people that action needs to be taken, then I'll do it. And I think she succeeded. We have more than 7 million people participating in the climate strikes. And it's not going to end, I hope.
Greta, the message of Greta and a lot of people, young Filipinos, they are saying that we need to do all forms of action, not only blaming the government, the corporation, but also doing our part in this action. Because one of the critique that many environmentalists are having is that action can only be done individually, but But the message here is that we need collective action to address this problem.
When Greta Thunberg sounded the alarm and saying there's an emergency and there's a crisis, while she pointed out to leaders and all that, I think each and every one of us is being called to take our action, which means as a citizen, it is my responsibility to tell the government, the authorities, that I think we should move this way. Because if you don't, then the window of opportunity for us to save the next generation would close. The problem, I think, is, alam mo yun, nimto. Thinking about the climate crisis with a not in my term of office mindset. Because climate change,
That's what it is. Nimto.
it's quite long. It's quite long. Like we're talking about 2 generations from now. And I think that's the problem with shifting the mindset. Some of our leaders cannot think beyond their term of office. And that's a challenge. How do we make that happen? Greta Thunberg, I think, is showing us the way. She's thinking even beyond her lifetime. She's talking about the next generation after her lifetime. And that's what I find really inspiring. Like 30 years ago, I would have said the same thing. When you're young, and I think we just have to discover that again. I think it's harder with some people in government, but I think we shouldn't stop trying.